And I'm going to do a roll call here, just to be clear that you're here.
Oh, yes.
So that would be Laura Timberlake here, Rich Gimmel,
Here.
and I'm here, so we're all here. So are you going to handle these then if we need any additional comments?
Yes.
Okay, so I will
If
just,
it's not me, I have my peeps lined up back
your peeps are here.
My
Yeah.
peeps are here.
Peeps
They're
are great. Hi, guys. So, item 1, these are action discussion items. Approval of 2019 local district tax rates levied. Associate Commissioner Robin Kinney and Division Director Donna Duncan. The Commissioner recommends approval of the 2019 local district tax rates levied in accordance with KRS 160.470. Do you have any supplemental?
What I'll share with you just as a refresher, if you recall our last meeting in October, we came to you with probably around, I think, 150 or so districts that had their tax rates ready. This time we have more that we've added to the list, so what you see is the list has actually gotten longer. And this is, again, where districts are getting their tax rates approved, they're sending them into us, and then we recommend it to the board. We make sure that we get the information from the Department of Revenue, we do our work with it, send it to the districts, they decide what tax rate they want to do at the local level, then they send it back up, and that's what you have on your charts, is what they have approved locally to do. At this point, we have all districts in except for 3, so you have 169 districts total now that have added to the list. And the 3 that will be coming to you in February will be Lincoln, Martin, and Gallatin. They just have various issues going. So what we've done is to make sure that the districts have complied with the statutes, that they've informed with the laws and what they can do in terms of tax rates, and we'll bring them to you for approval. The Commissioner has recommended approval.
Okay, and so this is just a check on process.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, and we should do these all separately rather than en masse.
No, what you'll do is just, you just can approve the tax rates that have been presented.
Okay, so a vote, says a vote is necessary, so
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor, indicate by aye.
Aye.
Any nay? No, that doesn't. Okay. Approval of new district facility plans.
Yes, you have 2. Much better than the June and August.
Yeah.
These are brief. This time we have 2. One is for Jessamine County and the other one is for Somerset Independent. And both districts have fully complied with the process as outlined in the regulation. So, they properly convene their local planning committee, they consider the factors they should, have the hearings. In both districts, both the local planning committee and the local board have voted in full favor of the district facility plan, and we recommend your approval of their plans.
Okay. You all have any questions?
I'll move we approve for both.
I'll
Second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of, real briefly, I just have a question.
Sure.
Because earlier today I saw the legislative agenda. What, if you could do it in 25 words or less, what would you do if you could to smooth out the approval process?
What I think that was talking about, Kathy, I didn't see the discussion, but I think it was related to the Senate Bill 1.
Yes, it
The
is.
facilities plan.
Okay. What it is that, if you think about what a district facility plan is, it really is a big deal at a local level. Because what you're doing is you're engaging your community to look at the school facilities and to understand the shape that they're in and the needs and the growth factors in the community itself, and make recommendations on what needs to be updated and those schools are replaced. That can be a very time-consuming process. That can take many months because the local planning committee will meet several times. They will engage an architect to help them understand where their facilities stand. They will have to vote, the local board votes, then there are hearings, so it can take them a long time. With Senate Bill 1, the reason they were talking about streamlining for that particular process, Senate Bill 1 has basically a hard deadline in there of June 30th of 2022, by which all districts will have had to update their facilities for the specific requirements outlined in Senate Bill 1. So knowing there's that hard date, and this is a high priority as set by the General Assembly, What we're trying to do is come up with a process that will help them expedite getting their projects done. Because they are facility projects, they will have to do an update or a finding to their district facility plans. But what we're basically coming up with is a process by which we are setting aside the regs to let them just do it by board action at the local level, okay? So if their board approves it, and Greg and my staff are working on a process to streamline it for them, once their board approves, they can come to us and then we can approve it, and that will make it a final change in their DFP, and they can get the projects done and the funding if that's available.
So where's the longest length of time though, on their end or this end?
It's on their end.
So, okay,
So we're.
but you would even shorten this end for them by the,
Right, what they'll be able to do is just, they will only have to have one meeting at their level versus at least two.
okay.
So that's gonna shorten it. And then two, because we're allowing them to amend it without, it's really more than a finding, which is something my staff can do versus an amendment, but we're allowing them to do it as if it were a finding, so it doesn't have to come to you all for approval, because that could delay another 2 months.
Of
Right.
course, because you're waiting for a board
Exactly.
meeting for heaven's sake.
Right.
Right.
So this is because, again, we all recognize that this is one of the highest priorities that, from the standpoint of updates to their facilities, therefore we're building a process to make it easier for them to accomplish it.
Right.
Okay. That was an excellent explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was more than 25 words, but well worth it.
Well, I never can get it to 25.
Me either.
Okay, item 3, approval of local district working budgets.
Yes. What this is, and for those, with school districts, just like with most other entities, they will have produced various budgets at different points in their year. And this is their working budget, where they take what they anticipate in terms of their revenues and expenses, and they compile that and come up with something by September 30th, they send it to us. They just basically, here's what we expect to have with our revenues and our expenditures. And one of the things that we're looking for, that you're looking for, is that they have provided adequate cushion in there to cover unknowns, which is what we call the contingency. So what we hone in on with this as our review, and that's what, you get kind of like a little condensed version of what it looks like, is how much they have budgeted toward contingencies. And the minimum that is required or recommended for them is that they have at least 2% budgeted. So if they have less than 2% budgeted, then we'd be going back to them saying, you know, we need to go back and we need to talk about this. If you really don't think you can do more than 2%, we've got some problems with your financial health, shall we say. So in this case, and again, we look through to make sure what they're doing with their budgets, that they have found a way to at least budget at least 2% contingency. And in this case, all the districts have been able to do so. So we then say, yep, we're okay with you, the commissioner's okay with you. The board doesn't have to require any kind of other special reporting from them, and they can proceed on.
Donna, is the district having an exceedingly large surplus concern?
Now, there's a couple ways to look at that though, Rich. If you look at a little bit tiny district that has not a whole lot of income and expenses, they can have a very high contingency at $50,000.
Sure.
So that's one factor you can look at. Another factor is sometimes the school district is saving up for something, such as a land purchase. Okay?
Is that why that percentage would skyrocket
It
in
could,
some
yes.
cases?
And some are just by their nature a little bit more conservative. You know, if they want to put back a little bit more, but, you know, if you think about it, even an HVAC system could cost $500,000, $10 million, depending on what you're looking at. So, you know, it just really depends on what they think they may be facing.
I'm looking at like Ohio County, that's 30%, 31% contingency. They're only spending basically 2/3 of their revenue, which may mean they're overcharging their constituents.
Well, again, they could be looking at having to do something major in the next year or two, because that's what they're really sometimes putting that money back for.
Okay. And you've gone over all of these then?
Oh, I have full staff that has fine-tooth combed them.
Good work.
I'll move we approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I think those are the 3 items I had.
So it says review items, the audit update and expense reports for KBE. Maybe we'll wait for Robin.
Yes, because Charlie Harmon, who would many times give that to you, who's our budget director,
Mhm.
is out today, so that is Robin that will be giving that.
Okay,
She's doing double duty.
She is.
and then discussion on recommendations for the school report card. And you all have received a copy of the presentation, and there are a couple of people here today that you should feel free to weigh in because they've done so much work on it. But is there anything in particular that anybody has questions about or that you would like to go over from that? We tweaked it recently with, but they were.
Yeah, did any of you or your staff have any thoughts on this?
We, honestly, I have not seen what you guys were ready to see.
They didn't get it until,
Mm-hmm.
we only were able to
Friday.
get it, yeah, because we were working on it. We couldn't get it to you, which I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. We'll watch it with you.
Okay, and then I hope if you have questions about it. So I'm just going to suggest, unless, Rich, you have something.
No, the question that I have really doesn't concern the report card, but it concerns the fact that NAEP and and ACT seem to correlate very well, but K-Prep goes off in a different direction. And it
We
makes
did not
me-
expect to find that.
It makes
This
me
was-
wonder about the validity of the K-Prep scores, because they're so different from what we find in NAEP and in
Yeah, you haven't
ACT.
seen it, but.
No, but you know,
But
honestly,
K-Prep's going like this and the others are going like this.
that would be probably, you know, of course, from my side of the house, we're finance oriented, so we really don't
Sure,
get into
I know that, but, and
So-
again, that's unrelated to
Right.
the issue itself here, but
However, there is financial data in the sense that what we have wanted ultimately to do is to correlate performance with spending. And and again, I just want to make sure that you all understand that this is an example of recommendations that we would like to see made to the school report card in the service of the citizens of Kentucky. Because it's clear that the data that we have there is not that accessible. It's not, I mean, it's all there and you guys do a fabulous job, you know, but trying to understand things to, say, a grandmother in Harlan County who's trying to figure out where her grandkids might want to go to school and how much money is being spent there and what's the performance like. You can't really currently go to the website and realistically expect anybody to get the right information. So we're thinking that, as the Finance Committee, that the ESSA requirements and the existence of the school report card is an amazingly wonderful opportunity if we can get the data in really consumable, easy to understand, transparent form. And so we have made suggestions to reorganize what's there and to add things and to Rich's point, one of the things that was really surprising to us is that there, you will see when we throw the slides up this afternoon that K-Prep scores are deviating from ACT and NAEP.
I've never seen them plotted like that, really.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's why context is so good. You know, you can look at any graph chart,
Sure.
but if you don't have things to compare it to, it kind of just hangs there.
Well, I think basically, I mean, out of here, this is more of a formality that as a finance committee, that these are going to be recommendations that we're making to the commissioner
Yes, these are,
to,
right.
because obviously there's some of this is, we understand the software that's running all of this is not a custom built program, per my understanding.
Right, but we also know that we're paying Brightbyte $660,000 a year. So
There may be some customization available to,
there may be customization available, or I don't know. I mean, I just want to be a little entrepreneurial about this, if you will. So I'm going to need a vote from this finance committee so that we can make a recommendation to the board that these are recommendations we want for
the commissioner to pursue.
to pursue.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And also, Donna, there is one chart on here that, at some point, I might ask you and Robin and your team to help us out with more, but we are trying to represent as best as we can how much money is getting inside the classroom versus the rest of the budget. Literally, and the only clear chart of account item was instructional. Because there were these other that, there are other and there's support, all different kinds of support. We have no idea what is getting put into those. So in order to be as pure as we could to try to get the sense of what of this budget is actually getting to teachers, we just relied on that one category of instruction. So at some point, we may want to tweak that and get guidance from you all and maybe help in understanding what's going into those other buckets.
And then I think the problem is that it may very well
Very,
be conditioned to whatever that local district wants to put in that bucket, which we may not.
They
Right.
got some latitude as to.
They do,
where
they
to
do.
put
But,
specifics,
but,
but-
well, from our standpoint, where we stop our tracking is
Mhm.
close to the district.
Right.
Because that's, we do seek, and so
Mhm.
seek is an allocation formula that goes to the district.
Mhm.
The district then has allocation considerations that they
Right.
then pass along to the schools.
Mhm.
And the SBDMs have latitude on how they spend it once it gets down there.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that decisions are being made at the local level that probably you won't see as full through as you might like, Kathy, but that's part of it. But,
Per my understanding, and maybe some of you legislative folks over there can chime in, per my understanding, nor do we have the authority to tell them how to report it at this time, right? So it's more of a, how transparent do they have to be per federal law? And obviously any statute that,
but there is a goal of consistency
Mhm.
on the chart of accounts and the
Mhm.
coding, right?
right.
and I'm not arguing, I'd love to see it, I just don't know at this point who has the authority to be able to make that more transparent, or does anyone? I think, the way our state is designed, we give all of that power to the
It's
local school
local control,
districts.
right.
Mhm. So I'm, like I said, I think we get close, but I don't know that we ever get, it's never gonna be apples to apples in my mind, it's gonna be
Okay.
apples and bananas.
And that's, I think, some of the discussions, Kathy, as you probably remember too, that's good to say,
Mhm.
Laura, is that in some cases, it depends on your district. For example, they may have guidance counselors that are housed at the district level, but then they support schools, and they may be at one school one day, one the next, whatever,
Mhm.
and they
We
allocate.
split those
Really
resources.
allocate those out.
Mhm.
Those out, so it's not gonna be as direct of a number as maybe you're looking for.
Sure, but it's not gonna affect your administration versus instructional expenditures on an overall
No.
basis. But let's say you have a guidance counselor that also teaches occasionally, or an assistant principal
They
that
could
also
be,
teaches.
they could be counted both ways, depending on
Mhm.
what they're
Mhm.
used.
Yeah.
Well, here's another number that actually was a little misleading for us, and that is the number of certified teachers. You would think certified teachers were teachers, but they're not always. They're just certified teachers that are
Certified
working
personnel.
within the system. Yes,
They're not necessarily teachers, but they're
They
They may have
certified
moved into an
personnel.
administrative role.
right, exactly. So that was a whole category when we were going through all this data
Mhm.
that we actually couldn't use.
Mhm.
And that's why we were kind of reduced to just that one category of instruction, to give this sense to the taxpayer, the citizen, the parents, the families, and all of us as to what's really getting inside the classroom of all this money. And I think it's a meaningful number, and I'm glad it's there.
Donna, were you around when Adam Edlin did his audit at JCPS?
I was not here at education.
I'm just curious because, he came up with some definitive figures on administration versus instruction. And I'm just curious if anybody knew the criteria that he used.
I couldn't.
Or if he went beyond what was self-reported.
I'm sure that there are people, I just haven't, that was kind of like the history before I got here, and I have
Mhm.
not gone back, or I have not gone back.
That was about 5 years ago, 6
Yeah.
years ago.
I think I was actually in the finance cabinet at that point, so that was kind of not in my bailiwick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think they must be having fun over in operations.
Well, depends on how fired up Joe is, I guess.
Right. Because Robin said she was gonna come back, so what should we do
Yes.
about this one review item?
Because we've got to beat
It's
it. I mean,
really
how
reviewed.
gave you
We've
this?
never been
How
first.
gave you the stink eye?
He did. I saw that.
I saw it too.
Well, it's just a review, there's no vote or action.
Okay, so do you want to try to
Yeah,
review?
I can help a little bit.
Can you
There we
maybe
go.
help a little bit on
There
that?
you
All
go.
right.
Save the
Oh,
day.
you're up.
So, we'll put the audit last, because that's really more Robin's conversation, but I can talk to you a little bit about the commissioner and the board's expenditures if you guys are interested in moving on to that. So basically, this is just a document that I create, have done this for several years, and it's just tracking the expenditures that are spent in the commissioner's office and for the Board of Education, so.
Okay, we can start now.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry. I have to clone myself.
Oh, yeah. Duplicity.
Well, it would be a better world. So we're on the review items, and we were
want the expense
punting in
report?
your
Yeah.
absence.
Okay.
Because we actually finished everything else really happy to know.
Maybe I'm the one that makes it take so long.
No.
It's my fault.
I would love to have you to blame.
There's that.
Okay.
I had just sat down and was gonna talk about the expenditure reports, not the audit, because that's
Okay.
okay for you on that, so.
Okay.
Just explaining that this report was created several years ago, and it tracks expenditures for the board and for the commissioner's office. So if you have any questions, you should have it on your,
Oh,
I
it's
can
on
get it
here.
to pull up, yeah, it's
Yeah.
giving me an error for some reason.
okay,
Do you have hard copies?
I have,
We can just
We
look
can
at
share.
there's one there. And then this is the
But I'm not
detail.
readers, so.
This is the detail that goes behind it, and basically it's just a breakdown of all the activity. So, and I'll be glad to make you guys another copy. And it's gonna include travel for the commissioner, and then it's gonna include any, office expenditures, any operating, that type of thing for the commissioner's office, which I think is about 7 or 8 people. Also the board's expenditures, which would be any of your travel, or any of the things that are needed to perform meetings, and that type of thing. So it's pretty cut and dry.
So it's all his direct reports, is that?
No, it's his staff
His staff.
in his office.
In his
So it's not
office.
all his direct reports, because of course, each of the
Yeah, but
associate
it's-
commissioners.
Wait,
have
yeah,
direct
that's
reports.
true, that
So
was
that's
dumb.
each of their offices is budgeted separately.
So,
Primarily, it's things that you would expect to see. It's salary, it's travel, it's a little bit of office supplies,
Right.
not a lot. The good news is they stay within budget. You might see different areas that a little more spent in one area than what we expected, a little less in the other area, but overall, they are staying within budget, as well as the board expenditures. Some of the travel too, I would note for the commissioner that comes out of his, he has a couple of advisory councils that we actually track expenditures there. So like the Commissioner Student Council, you know, their travel, to have them come here and participate, as well as student ambassadors. And then along with interpreters. So a cost associated with interpreters to conduct certain meetings on their behalf. So really not anything that we would deem really unusual or out of the ordinary.
yeah, I'm getting, I keep getting an error. so
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Well,
You say commissioners operating within budget?
And what's the budget?
that was for the year ending June 30, 2019.
Yeah, this is for the year ending June 30th, 2018.
I'm just looking at his remaining balance under operating.
Yeah, and so his overall budget, he's still okay,
Yeah.
right? His overall budget is still okay. There's being more expended in the operating expenditures on the bottom, and those couple things that I was just talking to you about is sort of why that's happening. It's expenditures for the Student Council Advisory Board, it's for the student ambassadors, those are paid out of there. And we also had a cost for the Loretta that sits out front. She used to be a temp. We contracted for her through a temp agency, and now she's an employee.
Sure, was
So-
none of that budgeted?
No, because we had a retirement. We had a retirement, and so it would have been up at the top, it would have been in salary. And so it would have been budgeted up there, and because it was a temp agency
It's a third
that we
party.
contracted her, is down in the operating
Oh, so-
expenses.
okay, that
Yeah.
makes
But it
sense.
should have been offset by the fact.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah, so we would have had
Not in
those
that,
expenditures
right.
down in the operating
Gotcha.
without that. But we're happy to answer any other questions. And sometimes you'll see, like in the travel line for the commissioner's travel, you'll see like a higher dollar amount. You know, we encourage all of our staff to submit their travel like monthly. And sometimes, you know, when you travel, you get behind on that. So like, for example, in March, you'll see a 2,500. Well, that's his travel for October, December, January, February. So,
Okay, it accumulated.
yeah, so you don't see that constant about the same amount
Right.
every month because he did his travel expense reports then. So,
And that's just a review item, right?
yeah.
Yes, it is.
Just a
We don't
review
need to
item.
vote on this
We
or
do this
anything.
twice a year, I think. We bring to you expense reports
Yeah.
for both the commissioner and the board.
Okay.
The other part that we have on this agenda item is, you know, we periodically come before you and report out on audits, audit activity of the department and local school districts. And so we're before you today. This is again a review item. It's just kind of sharing out what's happening. We have auditors with us all the time, whether it's from the Auditor of Public Accounts or federal program auditors that look at things. And we're actually reporting on two things this time. It's the fiscal year 2018 statewide single audit, volume 2. And you'll see in the staff note this year we actually had 3 findings. And to just briefly go through those 3 findings, for the first finding, there was an instance where, actually 2 instances, where we charged expenditures from the special ed federal program outside the grants period of performance. So what that means is, for many federal dollar programs, we have a 27-month period. So at any given time, we're really sometimes operating out of 3 accounts related to a certain program. So we had actually charged expenditures past the 27-month deadline. So we have actually worked with the federal program office to resolve that. And as you can see in your staff note, we have resolved that. They've sent us a final determination letter in August. So that's all been cleared up with them. The second finding was a failure to ensure timely payments of the 21st Century Community Learning Center's federal grant. We continue to work with the U.S. Department of Education to resolve this one. What had happened was all the expenditures were legitimate. This is a reimbursement-based program, and so we didn't timely enough reimburse the school districts for those amounts. I will say, and you may remember the
We
last
talked
time we
about
talked
that. I do
about
remember.
this. So we have corrected our staffing shortage. All of our positions are filled, so we feel a lot better about the timeliness of payments being dispersed. And then the final finding was in the area of child nutrition. We have our child nutrition information and payment system, and then we have what we call EMARS, which is our centralized state government accounting system. And again, this was primarily due to a staffing shortage. We had one person that was trying to manage both of those in the program, and so it was a segregation of duties issue. Since then, since this has been issued, we have hired another person. So we've got somebody working in EMARS, the central accounting system, and then we've got somebody else working in CNIPS. So that one has also been resolved. So those are the 3 findings for SWAC. The other item that I want to report out on is fiscal year 18 A133 school district reviews. The Auditor of Public Accounts assists us with that. And you'll see in the staff note, we have reported out the categories of findings, either acceptable with deficiencies, or technically deficient. As of November 1st, all the ones that were technically deficient have been resolved. So we're very glad for that. There is a note in here to let you know that the increase in those technical deficient audits, anytime we get a new GASB circular that comes out and says you got to do things differently, then it does usually cause a spike in the number of deficiencies because not everybody does what they're supposed to do with anything new. And so we have to go back to them and say, okay, this is new, make sure you do this. So that doesn't apply to all of the technical deficiencies, but I would say a large number are related to that new GASB 75 requirements.
What is the next largest category of finding?
I don't know that I could tell you that.
There were some, you know, I saw the list, but I couldn't really tell you. But these are technical deficiencies, Kathy, not that the district did, but the auditor.
Auditor did.
Oh,
So this is not looking down at the district level.
It's like in our world of FASB standards. basically.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's where they have not, there was, in a couple of cases, there was another GASB rule that something had to be discussed in the notes.
Yeah.
And it failed to discuss it in the notes. So they go back to the auditor and say, hey, look, you need to comply with this gas, and they do. They-
okay.
Yeah.
So that's what this is.
Mhm.
And what it is used to kind of look at too is if we have auditors that perpetually have technical
Problems.
deficiencies or problems, that we would drop them from the list of auditors.
Approved
that are
auditors.
required.
That's what, and I was curious, because I think this came up in the board meeting, I don't think, obviously you two weren't here then, but when Breathitt County
Mhm.
got into trouble, you know, they were basically mentioning that nothing happened until the superintendent got arrested, and I would imagine if their financial constraints were that horrible that either their auditor was defrauding the State Department or we were asleep at the wheel or something, because I would imagine it probably would have looked really bad, you know.
You know, and Laura, you've got to have business and
Mhm.
banking background.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you and I both know, especially with any kind of audit company, that's why we recommend that they switch them up every 5 years.
Exactly. They get complacent.
They get
Mhm.
complacent.
Yeah, they stop looking. It's disgusting that you're,
Is that, but that's not a statute or anything that
No,
requires that?
it's best practices. And that's with any company really. It's kind of, in the industry, the standard, it's a best practice.
So at the level of the district, they're auditors, and they're typically around for 5 years?
You know, sometimes if they go longer than 5 years, we're looking to them to explain that maybe they switched out the actual auditors doing the work or the partners, if it's the same firm. But what they do, see, they bid that contract every year. So what you're hoping that they do when they rebid is that they will periodically pick another auditor just to get their fresh set of eyes.
Right.
So again, this was just a review item. We bring these twice a year to you to let you know what's going on, so there is no action that is needed on it.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you very much
You're
for that.
welcome. You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. So, let's see, and so you've got my report here for the full board. Is there any other discussion on anything that?
I don't think so. I think that's everything. I would make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right.